Hi, welcome to the DIY Photo Organising podcast. I'm Fiona from Photo Helper.
And I'm Chantal from Simply in Order Photo Organising. Imagine you can find any photo at any time at the click of a button. We are here to show you how.
So let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the DIY Photo Organising podcast. It's lovely to have you listening again. Hi, Chantal. How are you?
Hi, Fiona.
Hello.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right, so we're excited to bring you today some listener questions. So we've had some great questions that it's come through to us directly through our website. If ever you want to send that through to us or through the Facebook posts. But we just thought it would be a great opportunity to have a bit of a chat about some things that's on your mind, and see if we can just answer some good general questions that you might have out there, and just dive right into some of the specific things that are going on for some of our listeners.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so starting off, we've got a question. This listener is a Mac user. And they're talking about whether you organise your photos or pictures, they've said, in Photos, or do you use something different on your Mac? So what, and also they've talked a bit of a pointed question here about the photo optimization process for a Mac and also with an iPhone. So what's your sort of take on that? Obviously, a bit of an iCloud, a bit of a Photos Mac, but organisation for photos on the Mac. Do you use the Photos program or do you use something different?
Yes, so that's a question really, and yes, I do use Photos.
Yeah,
and I know you do too, but we both use it in a different way.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So. Shall I start?
Yeah, jump in. Fantastic.
So the way I use it, I don't use it with the iCloud Photos library.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means, I actually plug my iPhone into my Mac and download the photos manually.
Yep.
And
using image capture. Yep.
Yes, that's right. I used to import them directly into Photos, but I've stopped doing that for the sole reason, or pretty much the main reason, is because I want to change the file names before I bring them into Photos.
Okay.
And once they're in Photos, you cannot touch the file name. There's no way to change it. You can do other stuff, and I really like the program, but since I've become a photo organizer, I became more aware of, the whole metadata thing, the file names and what have you. So I've started to do it via image capture, which is on any Mac, so that I don't have to spend any more money, and I copy it into my hub.
Yes.
And what I also do is, at the same time, even though that's actually probably not really best practice, but once they downloaded, I delete them on the phone.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before I back them up.
Yeah.
So if ever something goes wrong, I don't have them anymore on the phone. I would have them though, because I back up my phone to the cloud. So it's there. The risk is very,
There's
very
so
big.
many different ways you can do it.
I know.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
Okay.
And then I do all the work. I rename my photos, and I use a program called Photo Mechanics for that.
Yep.
So that's where I it's like a browser actually. I don't have to move my photos. They all sit there, and in that browser I go through them, and first of all I delete as much as I can, and then I sort them, like if it was an event or whatever. I rename the file names, I add keywords, I add descriptions if I want to. I don't do that on all of them.
Yeah.
Some photos I actually move out and don't ever import into Photos. Things like screenshots.
Do you just delete them?
If they're old enough. Sometimes they have become obsolete, so I do delete them. And other times I send them to Evernote. That's something I use a lot, or into my task management system. Personally, I use OmniFocus. That's a to-do task management system.
Yep.
So often when I take the screenshot, I send it directly to that tool, but sometimes I forget or I don't have the time, whatever. So they do end up with my photos. But then that's the time when I move them
when
out.
you do the delete.
And once that's all done, that's when I import them into Photos.
Okay.
Because I'm not connected to iCloud Photo Library, of course, though, I can't see my complete library on my phone.
Right.
It's not syncing to the phone or to any other device. So if I want to look at my whole photo collection, I have to fire up the Mac, plug in my external drive that holds the photos library, and look at the photos that way.
And do it that way. Yeah.
They're not online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how I do it, and avoiding the cloud.
Yes.
But I know you use the cloud.
I do. So I do mine.
It.
So as far as the organising of my pictures in Photos, I do it all through the photo program on a Mac.
Mm-hmm.
So I take them on my phone and then I organise them by using either albums or keywords. And then I also use the program intuitive structure, which is it does location and it does the people's faces.
Yes.
So that's how I do my organising.
Mm-hmm.
I'll again at the end of the, for my monthly sort of a process, clear through. If I haven't done that as I go along for the month, then I'll do clear out photos, choose favourites, and do all of that selection. And then that's when I'll keyword, or I'll already have sort of the keyword structure in place for, say, as I'm going through that, I know I want to add those photos from that month into my year-end book or something like that. So so instead of the renaming, I don't rename my photos, but I do the tagging and the photo albums, tagging in the keywords, as my way of doing, it's like the name refile.
Yes.
So I'm finding them that way.
Yeah.
And then also location-based and then person-based. Yeah.
And the facial recognition, that's a really cool thing that Apple Photos does.
Yes. And because it does it as soon as the photo is taken, that's already there. And it's been sort of added to the files really throughout the month automatically. Yeah. So I do it that way. And as far as the photo optimization process, this listener's talking about as far as the iPhone. So again, look, we talked a little bit about the settings for photos. I have it optimized on my phone. I have the originals being downloaded on my Mac because they sync across all of my devices.
Yeah.
And then I do an export out and a backup manually as well.
Right, okay, yeah.
And that's the full resolution of the image. So yes, they are full resolution and they're sitting in the iCloud as a full resolution. They don't sit on my phone as a full resolution, but they do sit on my Mac as a full, which is an external hard drive.
Yes.
But that is the full resolution, and then I back up from there as well.
Yeah, I think that's important that you have the full resolution not only in the iCloud if you use iCloud, but at least on one of your devices. Yeah, because you want to own the original. And in terms of, I'm not quite sure whether the question also was about whether you have to use Photos when you use a Mac. And not, from what I mentioned before, how I do it, you don't have to.
You don't, yes.
As I said, you can import the photos into your Finder and do whatever you want to do from there.
Just have a file structure.
You can let them sit there in a simple file structure. You can use a different software. If you really, if you're more tech savvy or so, you could use Lightroom, for example. That's a popular one. And there's other photo management systems. So you can do whatever you want. You don't have to use Photos. It's just very handy. And obviously, if everything you have is an Apple product, it makes sense to use the Apple ecosystem. and that's what it's built for.
Yeah,
So,
and it really, they keep, in each updates and things like that, they have some great program. I mean, I'm obviously an Apple user and Photos user, so I love being able to see all my photos.
Yeah.
Even the ones that I've scanned and then I've redated to the accurate date, within give or take. And then again I use the keywording, and I've put the photo facial recognition, because the facial recognition works on scanned photos as well as ones that have been taken from the camera on the phone.
So I hope that answers our listener's question. And shall we go to the next one?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. What's the next one?
Okay, we've got one question. I'll read it out. That's probably the easiest.
Yes.
So she is asking, one topic I would love to hear your thoughts, tips on is how to download a lot of photos from iCloud. I have thousands there without realizing that my phone was only saving them there, not on the phone itself. And it is a very frustrating process to download them. I'm on a Windows computer. Any advice would be much appreciated. Looking forward to future podcast episodes. Thank you. Lovely to
That's wonderful.
So, that kind of what you just mentioned before with the optimized storage. That's what it's about. And yes, the iCloud stores the original, but your phone might not, depending on your settings. And yes, that's the thing with Apple. As soon as you leave the ecosystem, I don't want to say you run into trouble. You don't. There is always a solution, but it's not as easy as if you would have a Mac. But you can install the iCloud on your Windows computer and have your photos downloaded in original size. So that's possible.
Yeah. You can definitely do that. So, and look, there's definitely, and I think it's a trial and error once you've done that, and you can download, but the originals are in the cloud, and so it's just a matter of making that a process that you do regularly to download them using that program on the Windows.
Yeah. And another solution that just comes to mind, if you're not comfortable using the iCloud on Windows, what you could also do, for example, is use Dropbox. Yep. So you can have an automatic camera upload from your phone to your Dropbox account, and all you then do is syncing that camera upload folder to your Windows computer, and again you will have original sized photos.
Yeah.
And it's all automated. You don't have, all you have to do is set it up correctly. And of course, from time to time, open that camera upload on your phone. Otherwise, it will not send the photos up to the cloud.
Yes.
And then, of course,
that's,
sync it down.
Some of those, of those apps, you just need to actually open it to engage the process to start doing its thing.
I'm not sure. Is it the same with Google Photos or Amazon Drive and stuff? I think
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, actually. We might have to have a little test. That's always the best thing about listener questions and things like that when we get these, because there's so many different options out there.
Yeah.
So we need to just do some trials on that one.
Yeah.
But I know that we did that when we were looking at the Google Photos on the Apple on the iPhone.
Yeah.
That once you opened it, it had to be opened to engage.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think
sync.
I don't know of an app from the top of my head that doesn't need to be open.
There's some
sync,
which has background data. That's a toggle on or off as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So it might be So again, it's just all looking at the settings, testing it to make sure that you've got it set up the way that you're happy with. But that's definitely an option as far as being able to still get your photos off iCloud using a Windows computer.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what else have we got?
So we have a question about where do you store the digital photos? So that's a listener question asking about that. So we've talked about that with our golden rules as far as having a hub
Yeah.
So we recommend 3 different types of backups, or 3 backups on 2 different types of devices, and one of them being off-site. And so really the places that you can store them, you could store them on your computer. You could store them on an external hard drive.
Yeah.
You could store them on some type of a NAS, or some type of a server type unit. But yeah, so there's a number of different options there, but definitely going into the external hard drives is mainly, and then having backups of those, because anything can fail at any time.
Absolutely.
So just aware.
Right, so another one. My problem is sorting different photos from mobile phones and cameras. If you store them together, you can't bring them in a reasonable order. Well, I couldn't go back and ask more details, but I'm assuming this is the issue with different timestamps.
Yep.
So maybe the camera had a wrong timestamp, and so the photos have the wrong time, because if all the devices have the correct time, and especially when you're traveling in different time zones, that can be an issue, and when you forget it, it's like they've all got the wrong time, whatever. But if they do have the right time, they will automatically, when you throw them all like in the same folder and you sort them by date, they will automatically show up in the right chronological order.
Yep.
So that shouldn't happen. When you did take photos and then later you realize, I had the wrong time, and happens to me all the time because we do travel, then I download the photos, from one device, and then I do the next. So when I download from one device and I've already known, okay, that's got the wrong time, I immediately adjust the time so it has the right time.
Yep.
So you can do that later on, and then
in a bulk setting.
In a bulk setting, and then the sorting is a lot easier, and it should be over, right? So I'm not sure whether that was the question, but yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too, it is depending on where you're looking at the photos in on the hard drive, or in an app like Photos or in Windows, but you can then group a selection of photos all at once, and then add on maybe 5 hours to all of them at once, rather than having to do that individually. So it's definitely worth just checking if you know that that's something that has been a problem in the past, or you have an old device that you've just downloaded, before you bring it all into your actual hub, to really check that first, because it's much easier to do it all in the one folder than to take them out once they're merged. That's really difficult.
I should have mentioned that you can do that in bulk, as you just said. Yes.
Wonderful.
So,
next one, we've got how to organise the photos for the first time with the Mac OS when the hard drive is full. So the best answer for this is to move the ones that you've already got on your computer off the computer onto an external hard drive. And then from there you put the new ones into the external hard drive. And then once everything's collated all in the one place, then you can start doing all of the actual organising.
Yeah, that's right.
Great.
Now, and that's a follow-up from that question. So what happens when the hard drive is full, and where do you move them to? Do you move them to the cloud?
Yep.
Well, that's a question we get quite often, really.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. I think we both would prefer to see it on an external hard drive.
Yep.
We have talked about the cloud a bit in the past, and it's an ongoing topic. And if you do want to store your photos in the cloud, we really recommend that you do a good research, because not all the cloud services are the same, and there's lots of pros and cons with each of them. And I've got the general rule that anything that is free is probably not good enough. Yeah.
There's usually some restrictions that you'll come across eventually.
Yeah.
On the restriction of the size of each of the individual image size or the video size.
Yeah.
Or the storage amounts, I guess. Yeah.
And best practice really is for you to own your photos, which means they shouldn't be in the cloud.
Yep.
Because you don't own the cloud, they can, close down tomorrow, and you can't do a thing about it.
Yep.
In
always
an
have
extreme
a
case,
copy outside of it.
Yeah. So,
very good.
Right. Another reader wanted to, or listener, I should say, wanted to know what we think about storing photos or movies on CDs, DVDs, memory cards.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
All right. So my take on that is to be very mindful that these types of hardware have a lifespan.
Yeah.
And really, it's just the best practice to be able to get into the habit of moving with the times of what you've currently got that's available in the stores now and keep them up to date. So when we're saying now you've got an external hard drive, in years to come there'll be something different, and then the storage space will be different. And even with the external hard drive, they don't last forever. They really, it's good practice to update them every 2 years at least. So really, the older style SD cards, memory cards, keep them, have it, have the data on there, but that's definitely a strong recommendation. It's just a must. It's a must do. If you're listening to a photo organising podcast, we are saying that you must get them off there as a copy and then don't use that. So durability of CDs, DVDs, any memory cards, even USBs, really they've got a lifespan, and they've got a failure option. They can fail like anything.
Yeah, and not only fail, but when you think of DVDs and CDs, a new laptop, they don't have drives anymore. So you have to buy an extra drive and spend another $100 or something for something that you hardly ever use. Plus on DVDs, if you want to use it as a backup, and there are people, I've heard that quite regularly, they burn a CD per year with their photos as a backup, which does make sense. However, these, even a phone photo these days is several megabyte big, and the CDs have actually quite limited space.
Yeah.
So they are on the way out, if you want to use them, of course, because when you think, we still got, we still able to convert the old film reels, for example. There will be equipment to convert whatever is on these CDs and DVDs in many years to come. I'm not too worried about that, but they are really on the way out.
And also I've recently just been working with a client that has a lot of videos, and they were doing that with their videos. A range of years of videos on the one DVD, and 3 out of them, there's about 15 of them there, half of it wasn't working. So part of the videos could be downloaded and converted, so that then they were merged with their photo library on their phone, so they could actually see them on their other devices, iPads and things like that. But they did have a damage to them, shame. And so it's just something to be mindful of, just as far as the durability of those two.
Good point.
All right, so then we've got another listener. About external or your cloud or server. So as far as storage, again, of photos. So we've talked about that a little bit more, but the other option, say with the server, this listener is talking about having a server should they get one, and, for the storage of their photos. So look, that's definitely an option. I use a NAS system. So, and I find that really helpful. It's got a lot of storage capacity. So just, if you're not familiar with that kind of stuff, just do your research. There's a lot of options out there So I would include that as, if you've got other computer needs for storage as well, other than your photo hub, then they really are. There's some great ones out there. Drobo's another one, and
yeah, and they will make sense, obviously, to look at the whole thing, not just in terms of photos.
Yeah,
except maybe if you're a photographer, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Shall we wrap that up for today?
So, yeah.
And we have more questions to come, so we've got so many that we thought we might do 2 episodes.
I think that's a great idea.
We will answer some more questions next time.
And yeah, if you've got any others that you think of as we're talking, please send them through.
Yeah. We look
Sounds
forward
great.
to it.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, Chantal. Pleasure as always.
Anytime.
All
Likewise.
right. Thank you. Talk again soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of DIY photo organising and found some inspiration, useful tips and strategies to support your photo projects.
We'd love to invite you to pop over to our Facebook page, DIY Photo Organising, and we welcome your questions, feedback, and any future topics that you'd like us to cover. If there is someone you'd love to share this with, please click on Share to help others take control of their photos too. Remember, have a look through our show notes for links to helpful information. I'm Fiona from Photo Helper.
And I'm Chantal from Simply in Order Photo Organising. And remember, we believe in you and you can do this.